Have you ever had a secret that felt like a heavy rock in your pocket? Imagine carrying that rock for years and years. Imagine being one of the most famous women in the whole world. People watch how you walk, how you dress, and how you never, ever smile for the cameras. For a very long time, Victoria Beckham was known for being the woman who never spoke. She was like a beautiful statue that everyone looked at but no one really knew. She went from being a famous pop star to a world-famous fashion queen, and she did it all with her mouth shut. She was the master of staying quiet while other people told lies about her. But imagine if one day, that quiet woman decided she had finally had enough. Imagine if she stood up in front of a giant room full of people and let that heavy rock go. This is a story about what happens when a nice person gets pushed too far. It is a story about a friendship that turned into a very sad secret. Most of all, it is a story about the moment the world stopped and listened to 7 words that changed everything. If you think you know the story of Victoria Beckham and Meghan Markle, you might want to think again. This is not just gossip. This is about what happens when the truth finally comes out, and it all started on one very surprising night in London. For a very long time, Victoria Beckham has been famous for not saying a word. People call her Posh because she always looks very fancy and serious. She moved from being a singer in a big girl group to being a boss in the world of clothes and fashion. Through all of those years, she never let anyone see her get upset. She never let the world see her lose her cool. While the newspapers were busy looking for trouble and writing mean stories, she was busy being calm. She learned how to say absolutely nothing at all, even when things were hard. But one night in the city of London, that quietness finally broke. When she spoke, it felt like the whole world stopped moving for a second. It was supposed to be a normal, fancy party called a gala. There were bright lights from cameras everywhere. There was expensive bubbly juice and famous people wearing sparkly diamonds. Victoria was up on the stage looking very tall and steady, just like she always does. She was giving a special award to a young person who makes clothes, but right in the middle of her talk, something changed. Her voice became very hard and strong. She put her hand on the tall desk in front of her and looked right at a news reporter in the crowd. She said 7 words that nobody expected to hear. She said, "I kept quiet too long. People need to know what she did." The whole room became so quiet that you could hear a tiny pin drop on the floor. She did not say a name, but she did not have to. Everyone in the room knew exactly who she was talking about. They knew she meant Meghan Markle. In just a few minutes, someone took a video of that moment on their phone and put it on the internet. The video was only 11 seconds long, but it was very powerful. By the time the sun came up the next morning, more than 4 million people had watched it. The places where people write comments were filled with people who were very surprised. They said that Victoria Beckham had just popped Meghan Markle's bubble with only one sentence. Victoria was the woman who built her whole life on being quiet and nice, but she had finally decided it was time to speak up. That one short line felt like the start of a much bigger story. It felt like something that had been growing for many, many years. This was not just a random fight between 2 people who did not like each other. It was a story about being friends, being hurt by a friend, and keeping a secret for a lot longer than anyone knew. When Meghan Markle first became famous in the royal family, Victoria Beckham was one of the very first people to be nice to her. Meghan was brand new to the country of England. She was an actress from Hollywood who was trying to fit into a very old and very strict group of people. Victoria knew how hard it could be. She knew that the English newspapers could be very mean and loud. So she did something that she does not usually do. She reached out to Meghan herself. She sent Meghan her own secret list of phone numbers. It had the names of people who help with hair and clothes, people who help with the news, and even people who own secret spas where famous people go to relax. Victoria wanted Meghan to have a safety net. She wanted her to have people she could trust because Victoria knew how much pressure it was to be famous. Soon, the 2 women were seen together at a big tennis match called Wimbledon. They were laughing and whispering to each other like they had been friends forever. Victoria even sent beautiful clothes from her own shop directly to Meghan's house at the palace. People who work in fashion said Victoria did not have to do any of that. She chose to do it because she wanted Meghan to feel like she had a friend. At the start, it looked like they would be a very strong team. One was a duchess from Hollywood and the other was a British fashion queen. Meghan told reporters how much she loved Victoria's clothes. Victoria's team was very happy because having a royal person like their clothes is a big deal. For a little while, everything seemed like it was perfect. They respected each other and they both loved fancy things. Their friendship was built on trust, but behind the scenes, things were already starting to break. By the end of the year 2019, people in London started whispering. They said that Meghan was starting to feel worried. Someone very close to her was telling her private secrets to the newspapers. These were things that only her best friends could have known. No one said a name out loud, but the rumors spread like a fast-moving fire. Soon, one name kept being mentioned over and over again. That name was Victoria Beckham. To most people, this sounded like a very silly idea. Victoria had kept her own life a secret for 20 years. Why would she start telling other people's secrets now? But to Meghan, these secrets being told felt very personal. People who know what happened say that Meghan started cutting people out of her life very quietly. She did not have a big fight with them. She did not even tell them why she was doing it. She just stopped talking to them. Suddenly, Victoria found herself locked out. She was no longer invited to fancy royal dinners. Her text messages were never answered. The woman who had been so kind to Meghan was now being treated like she did not even exist. By the time Meghan and Prince Harry left their royal jobs and moved away, the Beckhams were completely gone from their lives. There were no more pictures of them together. There was only a very cold and very heavy silence. For years, neither woman said anything. The newspapers tried to guess what happened, and people on the internet made up stories, but no one knew the real truth. Victoria kept her head down and worked hard on her clothing business. Meghan moved to California to start a new life in Hollywood. For a while, it looked like the secret would stay hidden forever. That was until that night at the big party when Victoria looked at the cameras and decided that being quiet was not helping anymore. She realized her silence was protecting someone who did not deserve to be protected. The words Victoria said would have been enough to start a big argument. But then, a new story came out about a charity. Victoria had been working very hard to help a hospital for sick children. It was a project that she cared about very much. Meghan was supposed to help her so that they could raise millions of dollars for the kids. But people who worked there say that Meghan told the bosses that she did not want Victoria's name on the project. She reportedly said that Victoria's name did not fit with her royal image. Later, an email was found that was said to be from one of Meghan's helpers. It asked the bosses to find a different person to help with the clothes. It said there were worries about how Victoria looked to the public. In just a few weeks, Victoria's name was taken off all the posters for the event. She had already spent months planning it. She had given her own money to pay for things. Suddenly, she was kicked out without anyone even saying thank you. A friend of Victoria said she felt very embarrassed. She gave her time and her famous name for free, only to be told she wasn't good enough to stand next to a duchess. For Victoria, that was the moment it stopped being a simple disagreement. It started to feel mean. The day after Victoria's video went all over the internet, her husband David Beckham did something too. He posted a simple picture of his family. It was him, Victoria, and their kids all laughing around a dinner table. He didn't write a long story. He just wrote one short sentence. The truth always comes out in the end. It was a very quiet move, but everyone knew what he meant. It was a message to the world. Other famous people started to show they agreed with Victoria. A famous model friend put heart pictures on the post. A clothing designer said that some people think being nice means you are weak. Meanwhile, Meghan's famous friends did not say anything at all. The big stars like Oprah and Serena Williams stayed quiet. Even Prince Harry, who usually tells everyone to be nice to Meghan, did not say a word. Photographers saw him at the airport looking very sad with his head down. That silence felt even louder than a big interview. For years, people thought Meghan was someone who could not be touched. They thought she was the brave woman who stood up to the royal family. But now, people were looking at her silence in a different way. Every minute she stayed quiet, Victoria looked like the strong one and Meghan looked like she might have done something wrong. A person who writes about fashion said that if Victoria is finally talking, it means something really bad must have happened. It wasn't just a trick to get attention anymore. It was real. It was about a friendship that turned into a broken heart. It was about trusting someone and being let down. Victoria's message was very clear. You can only protect the wrong person for so long before you have to speak up. Just when people thought the story was over, something even more shocking happened. Late at night, a short recording of a woman's voice appeared online. In the recording, the woman sounded very sharp and serious. She said, "She is lucky I don't tell people what I know about her." The recording did not say who she was talking about, but the person who put it online said it was Meghan Markle talking about Victoria Beckham. Within hours, millions of people had listened to it. The internet went crazy. Some people said it was not real, but others were sure it was her. Even people who really liked Meghan became very quiet. One big fan even said that if the recording was real, they didn't know how to support her anymore. Victoria did not say a single word about it. She did not fight back. But a friend of hers told reporters that Victoria was disappointed but not surprised. Those 4 words were very powerful. They showed that Victoria already knew that her friend might be mean to her, and she chose to be the bigger person instead of making a scene. Then a new rumor started that changed everything. People said Victoria was thinking about doing a long interview on TV, not just a short speech, but a long talk where she would finally tell everything about Meghan Markle. A close friend said Victoria feels like the world only knows half of the story and she is ready to tell the rest. This news made Meghan's team very worried. They started having emergency meetings and talking about lawyers, but the damage was already done. Every hour that went by, Meghan looked smaller and Victoria looked stronger. She was the quiet woman who had been treated badly and finally decided to stand up for herself. Even the big bosses in Hollywood started to say that when Victoria Beckham is done with you, your career is in big trouble. By the end of the week, the story was about more than just two famous women. It was about the truth and what happens when you hurt someone who was kind to you. People flooded Victoria's social media with nice messages. They said they were proud of her for telling the truth. They said that real class doesn't need a loud microphone. Victoria did not answer them because she didn't have to. Her silence for all those years had already said enough. Then she said one last thing that people will remember for a long time. A reporter asked her why she finally spoke up after so many years of being quiet. Victoria said softly, "I stayed quiet because I thought it would protect everyone, but all it did was protect the wrong person." That line was everywhere. It was simple and it was final. Meghan's side still had no answer. They didn't say it was a lie and they didn't explain anything. The longer they stayed quiet, the more people believed Victoria. David Beckham's words about the truth coming out felt like a magic spell that had come true. This time, the story wasn't a rumor from a gossip magazine. It was coming from a woman who had stayed quiet through decades of being famous until someone finally pushed her too far. Now, the world finally knows why.